The lights of the Manhattan skyline flickered once, twice, then plunged into darkness. On the hospital's fifth floor, Dr. Sarah Chen watched in horror as her patient's ventilator alarm blared, its backup battery engaging with precious minutes to spare. Across the city, elevators froze between floors. Traffic lights died. Water pumps ground to a halt. And in a nondescript government building, cybersecurity analyst Marcus Wells stared at his screen, watching the impossible unfold before his eyes. If you're just joining us, what you're witnessing is the opening salvo of the most devastating cyber attack in history. Before we continue this story of digital warfare, courage, and humanity's fight against invisible enemies, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring these untold stories to light, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. 3 days earlier, Marcus had been nursing a lukewarm coffee in the basement offices of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. At 35, his eyes already carried the permanent shadows of someone who'd spent too many years staring at code. His colleagues called him paranoid. His supervisors called him thorough. But when a routine scan flagged an anomaly in the power grid's control systems, only Marcus recognized the signature of something he'd been dreading for years. "Director, I need to speak with you immediately," Marcus said, knuckles white around his coffee mug as he entered Eliza Washington's office without knocking. "It's happening." Director Washington looked up from her monitor, her expression shifting from annoyance to concern. In 15 years at the agency, Marcus had never broken protocol like this. "What exactly is happening, Wells?" she asked, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. "Remember that theoretical attack vector I presented last year? The one everyone said was too complex to execute?" Marcus placed his laptop on her desk, turning it to show her the screen. "Someone's doing it. And they're already inside our power grid infrastructure." Eliza leaned forward, scanning the data. Her face remained impassive, but Marcus saw the slight tightening around her eyes. After 25 years in government service, she'd developed a poker face that could frustrate a cardsharp, but Marcus had worked with her long enough to read the subtle signs of alarm. "How long?" she asked simply. 3 days, maybe 4 before they have full deployment capability." Marcus ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. "And when they deploy?" "I remember your briefing, Wells." Eliza reached for her secure phone. "Get your team together. I'm calling in everyone." Within hours, the agency's crisis room hummed with activity. Analysts and technicians hunched over workstations while Eliza stood at the head of the conference table, facing the assembled team leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we're facing is a coordinated attack on America's critical infrastructure. Power grids, water treatment facilities, hospital systems, transportation networks, all targeted simultaneously. This isn't about ransom or data theft. This is about bringing a nation to its knees." Marcus projected a map of the United States onto the main screen, red dots blinking across it like a viral infection spreading. "These are the penetration points we've identified so far," he explained. "The malware is sophisticated, adaptive, self-replicating, and designed to remain dormant until activated. Once triggered, it will systematically disable fail-safes, override manual controls, and create cascading failures across interconnected systems." "Casualties?" asked someone from the back of the room. Marcus met Eliza's eyes before answering. "Conservative estimates? Thousands in the immediate aftermath. Hospitals losing power to critical care units. Traffic accidents at intersections without signals. People trapped in elevators, subway systems. But the secondary effects." He swallowed hard. "Water treatment failures, supply chain disruptions, communication blackouts when people need emergency services most, we could be looking at a death toll in the tens of thousands." The room fell silent as the magnitude of the threat sank in. "And we have no idea who's behind this?" asked Lisa Nakamura, the deputy director of counterintelligence. "We have theories, but nothing concrete," Eliza replied. What we do know is that this is beyond the capability of ordinary hackers or criminal organizations. The resources, patience, and expertise required point to state sponsorship. Or a coalition of states, Marcus added quietly. Eliza nodded. Either way, our priority isn't attribution right now. It's prevention. Marcus, you've studied this attack methodology. You'll lead the technical response team. Lisa, coordinate with intelligence agencies, see if anyone's picking up chatter. Everyone else, you have your assignments. We need to isolate affected systems, develop countermeasures, and prepare emergency protocols for worst-case scenarios. As the meeting broke up, Eliza pulled Marcus aside. You've been warning about this for years. Now's not the time for, I told you so. Marcus shook his head. That's not my style, Director. But we need someone on the ground at the primary infiltration points. The New York power distribution hub seems to be patient zero. I need to go there, see the hardware myself. You're more valuable here, coordinating the technical response. With respect, Director, I need to see how this thing behaves in its native environment. The malware adapts differently to each system architecture. If we're going to create an effective countermeasure, I need hands-on access. Eliza studied him for a long moment. Take Rivera with you. Her background in power systems will help. And Marcus? Be careful. Whoever's behind this has planned meticulously. They won't appreciate interference. 4 hours later, Marcus found himself boarding a government flight to New York alongside Sofia Rivera, a brilliant systems engineer whose expertise in infrastructure security had earned her a reputation as one of the agency's most valuable assets. At 32, Sofia had already prevented 2 potential disasters in the nation's power grid, one from natural causes, one from a less sophisticated attack attempt. So you're the doomsday prophet, she said as they settled into their seats. I read your analysis last year. It was impressive. Not impressive enough to get adequate funding for preventative measures, Marcus replied with a wry smile. That's Washington for you. Crisis budgets always exceed prevention budgets. She opened her laptop. Walk me through what we're looking for. As Marcus explained the technical details of the malware, he found himself appreciating Sofia's quick grasp of complex concepts. She asked precise, insightful questions that pushed even his understanding of the threat. The sophistication is what concerns me most, he concluded. This isn't just about causing damage. The code is designed to learn, adapt, and overcome any countermeasures we implement. It's like fighting an opponent who can read your mind. Every code has weaknesses, Sofia said firmly. We just need to find this one's Achilles heel. The New York Power Distribution Center resembled a corporate office building from the outside, its true purpose disguised by unremarkable architecture and minimal signage. Inside, however, the facility hummed with the heartbeat of America's largest city, monitoring and directing the electricity that kept over 8 million people alive and functioning. Facility Director James Harrington greeted them with the harried expression of a man balancing too many urgent priorities. We've implemented the isolation protocols you sent over, but we're running on limited functionality. If this stretches beyond 48 hours, we'll start seeing brownouts in critical areas. Show us the affected systems, Marcus requested, following Harrington into the main control room. Dozens of monitors displayed power flow diagrams, usage metrics, and system statuses across the city's 5 boroughs. 3 workstations had been physically disconnected from the network, their screens dark. These are the ones showing anomalies, Harrington explained. We've quarantined them, but the behavior spread to 2 more systems this morning. It's like it's jumping air gaps somehow. Marcus and Sofia exchanged concerned glances. Air gap jumping was theoretically possible but extremely difficult to execute. It required either physical access or extraordinary technical capabilities. We need to examine those isolated systems, Sofia said. And I want to review your building security protocols and visitor logs for the past 6 months. For the next 18 hours, Marcus and Sophia worked without breaks, subsisting on vending machine snacks and caffeine. They disassembled hardware, analyzed code, and traced data pathways through the complex infrastructure that powered America's most populous city. "I found something," Sophia called out at nearly 3 in the morning, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of equipment. Marcus hurried over to her workstation, where she'd connected one of the quarantined computers to a specialized diagnostic device she'd brought from Washington. "Look at this behavioral pattern," she said, pointing to a sequence of data points on her screen. "The malware isn't just adaptive, it's scheduled. It has predetermined activation triggers." Marcus studied the pattern, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. "It's waiting for something. A specific date or event? More sophisticated than that. It's monitoring system loads and user patterns." Sophia highlighted a segment of code she'd isolated. "It's designed to activate when it will cause maximum damage with minimum warning time. And look at this component, it's designed to compromise backup systems simultaneously." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Whoever designed this wanted mass casualties. This isn't about disruption or demonstration. It's about hurting as many people as possible. There's something else. Sophia pulled up another screen. "I checked those visitor logs. 6 months ago, 3 different maintenance contractors visited within the same week. Each worked on different systems, but when I cross-referenced their credentials with national databases." She turned to face Marcus. "The identities are real, but the photos don't match. Someone replaced these contractors with their own people. And they did the same at other facilities across the country," Marcus realized. "Physical infiltration combined with remote access. That's how they're jumping the air gaps." Sophia nodded grimly. "We need to warn the director. This is bigger than we thought." Marcus reached for his secure phone, but before he could dial, a notification appeared on Sophia's screen. Then another. And another. "What the hell?" Sophia's fingers flew across the keyboard. "The dormant code, it's activating." "That's impossible. You said the trigger conditions weren't met." "They weren't. Someone's manually overriding the scheduled deployment. They know we're onto them." Marcus grabbed the facility's hardline phone, calling the main control room. "Harrington. Initiate emergency shutdown procedures for all compromised systems now." "We're trying," came the strained reply. "Controls aren't responding. We're being locked out across the board." Marcus turned to Sophia. "How much time do we have?" She shook her head, still working furiously at her keyboard. "Minutes, maybe. The malware is spreading faster than I can track it. It's not just this facility, I'm seeing reports coming in from Chicago, Atlanta, Los Angeles. We need to sever all external connections," Marcus decided. "Physical cutoff. It's the only way to slow the spread. That would leave millions without power. Better than the alternative." Marcus was already running for the main control room, Sophia close behind him. The scene that greeted them was controlled chaos. Technicians shouted status updates while Harrington attempted to coordinate emergency measures. Every screen in the room flashed with warning indicators. "The backup generators for New York General Hospital just failed," someone called out. "They're reporting critical systems on battery power only. Transit Authority has lost control of the subway switching systems. Water treatment plants in Queens and Brooklyn are showing containment failures." Marcus pushed his way to Harrington. "We need to manually disconnect from the regional grid. A complete severing." Harrington stared at him in disbelief. "That procedure requires authorization from the Department of Energy. It would take hours to." "We don't have hours," Marcus cut him off. "Make the call or I will." While Harrington hesitated, Sophia was already at the main terminal. "I think I can isolate a portion of the grid, keep critical services running while we cut off the spread of the malware." Do it, Marcus ordered, not waiting for Harrington's approval. As Sophia worked, Marcus called Director Washington, quickly explaining the situation. The attack has been accelerated. We believe our investigation triggered a manual override. They're deploying ahead of schedule. I know, came Eliza's tense reply. We're seeing similar reports nationwide. The president is being briefed, and I've authorized emergency protocols across all agencies. We need to get ahead of this. The malware has weaknesses. It requires central coordination to maintain effectiveness across different system architectures. You're suggesting we find and neutralize the command and control servers? Exactly. If we can identify the communication pathways. A sudden power surge interrupted their call, plunging the control room into darkness for 3 seconds before emergency lighting activated. Marcus? Are you there? Eliza's voice came through the static. Still here. Director, we're going to lose this facility soon. Sophia's working on a partial isolation protocol, but we need to think bigger. We've traced some of the command traffic. It's being routed through a series of proxies, but our analysts think the primary control point is somewhere in the Eastern European region. That narrows it down, but not enough. We need Marcus. Sophia called out urgently. I've got something. He rushed to her side. What is it? The malware has a authentication mechanism, a digital signature that verifies commands are coming from the legitimate control source. She pointed to a segment of code on her screen. If we could replicate that signature, we could send our own shutdown commands, Marcus finished her thought. But decrypting that signature would take. I'm not talking about decryption. I'm talking about man in the middle. We intercept the legitimate commands, duplicate the authentication wrapper, and send our own instructions with the same signature. Marcus stared at her for a beat, then broke into the first genuine smile since the crisis began. That's brilliant. But we'd need direct access to a communication node. Every infected system is a node. We have dozens right here. They worked feverishly, Sophia coding while Marcus coordinated with Washington. Around them, reports of failures continued to pour in from across the country. Hospitals switching to emergency protocols. Traffic accidents at darkened intersections. People trapped in elevators and subway cars. It's ready, Sophia announced finally. Basic but functional. It should send a standby command to all infected systems, temporarily halting the attack sequence. Will they be able to override it? Eventually. This buys us hours, not days. It's enough. Marcus turned to Harrington. We need to deploy this to all your systems simultaneously. And if it fails, the facility director asked. Then we're no worse off than we are now, Marcus replied grimly. The deployment took 17 minutes during which reports of infrastructure failures continued to mount across the country. But then, gradually, status indicators began to stabilize. The malware's attack sequence paused, locked in a holding pattern by Sophia's countermeasure. It's working, she breathed, the exhaustion of 30 straight hours suddenly visible on her face. Marcus squeezed her shoulder briefly before returning to his call with Washington. The countermeasure is deployed and functioning. We've halted the attack progression, but it's temporary. We need to use this window to track down the command source. We're narrowing it, Eliza replied. Our international partners are cooperating fully. NSA has redirected satellite resources to monitor suspicious communications hubs. How much time have you bought us? Marcus looked to Sophia, who held up 4 fingers. 4 hours, conservatively. After that, they'll likely find a way to bypass our intercepts. Understood. I want you both back in Washington immediately. We're establishing a joint task force with DoD and intelligence agencies. Your expertise is needed here. The flight back was tense, both of them knowing that the reprieve they'd engineered was rapidly counting down. Sophia continued refining her code, looking for ways to strengthen it against the inevitable countermeasures their unknown adversary would deploy. "You know what I don't understand," she said after a long silence. "Why now? An attack this sophisticated represents years of planning and infiltration. Why activate it before achieving maximum penetration?" Marcus had been pondering the same question. "I think we forced their hand. Someone high up in their organization got nervous when we started investigating the New York node. They decided to launch with what they had rather than risk losing everything. A premature attack is still devastating. Yes, but not as devastating as it could have been. And now we have a chance to trace it back to the source." In Washington, they found the CISA headquarters transformed into a war room. Representatives from every major security and intelligence agency crowded around workstations, coordinating the nationwide response to what was now being called the most significant attack on American infrastructure since 9/11. Director Washington met them at the entrance. "Good work in New York. Your countermeasure has been deployed across all identified infection sites. We're holding steady for now. Have you located the command source?" Marcus asked as they followed her through the busy corridors. "We've narrowed it to 3 possible locations. A server farm outside Prague, a telecommunications hub in Belarus, and a nondescript office building in Montenegro." 3 locations suggests distributed control, Sophia noted. Redundancy built into their command structure. Exactly what our analysts concluded. "We're preparing simultaneous operations at all 3 sites, coordinating with local authorities where possible." "Where possible?" Marcus picked up on the qualification. "Belarus is being less than cooperative," Eliza admitted. "The others are allowing our technical teams access, but Belarus has denied any knowledge of suspicious activities within their borders." "That's your answer right there," Marcus said quietly. Eliza nodded. "We think so too. But we can't ignore the other locations. This operation is too sophisticated to rely on a single point of failure." In the main operations center, they joined the senior leadership team already deep in discussion of response options. "The President has authorized cyber counteroffensive measures," announced General Mitchell from the Department of Defense. "We're prepared to deploy our capabilities against the identified command nodes." "With respect, General, a brute force approach could backfire," Marcus interjected. "If we simply attack their infrastructure, they could accelerate the malware deployment or activate contingencies we haven't identified yet." "What do you propose instead, Mr. Wells?" asked the National Security Advisor, eyeing him skeptically. "Precision over power. Sophia's interception technique gives us an opening. If we can insert our own code into their command stream, we can potentially neutralize their entire network from within." "A digital Trojan horse," Eliza translated for the non-technical officials present. "Exactly. But to do it effectively, we need direct access to their command infrastructure." The discussion continued for another hour, plans formulated and refined. In the end, a hybrid approach was approved. Cyber teams would gain access to the facilities in Prague and Montenegro, while a more direct approach would be needed for the Belarus location. "I need to be on the team going to Belarus," Marcus told Eliza afterward. She frowned. "You're a cyber analyst, not a field operative. No one understands this malware better than I do. If we find their control systems, I'll need to be there to implement the countermeasures in real time. And I need to go too," Sophia added, joining them. "My interception code will require modifications based on what we find. We can guide others remotely, but the complex decisions will need to be made on-site." Eliza looked between them, weighing the risks. "This isn't a standard protocol." "Nothing about this situation is standard," Marcus pointed out. Finally, she nodded. "I'll arrange it. But you'll be accompanied by experienced field personnel, and you will follow their security protocols without question. Is that clear?" They both agreed immediately. 6 hours later, they were aboard a military transport aircraft bound for Eastern Europe, accompanied by 4 special operations personnel with backgrounds in cyber operations. The team leader, Major Sarah Donovan, briefed them during the flight. "We're entering under diplomatic cover through a neighboring country, then crossing the border with assistance from local assets. The target facility is ostensibly a regional telecommunications center, but satellite imagery shows unusual security measures for such an installation. What kind of resistance should we expect?" Marcus asked. "Unknown. Could be anything from private security contractors to state-sponsored protection. Our mission is covert entry and exit. We get you in, you do your technical magic, we get out. No confrontation unless absolutely necessary. How much time will we have once inside?" Sophia wanted to know. 10 minutes, ideally. 15 maximum before security protocols would likely detect an intrusion. Sophia and Marcus exchanged glances. It wasn't much time to analyze and compromise a sophisticated control system. "We'll make it work," Marcus said with more confidence than he felt. The insertion went smoothly at first. Their local guide, a taciturn man who identified himself only as Pavel, led them through a series of back alleys and service corridors that brought them within 100 meters of the target building shortly after midnight. "Security patrols every 8 minutes, Pavel informed them quietly. 4 guards with dogs at the main entrance, 2 at the service entrance. Electronic surveillance covering all approaches." Major Donovan nodded. "As expected. We'll proceed with Plan Charlie." Plan Charlie, as Marcus and Sophia had been briefed, involved accessing the facility through underground utility tunnels that connected the city's major buildings. It wasn't the most direct approach, but it offered the best chance of avoiding detection. The tunnels were narrow, damp, and smelled of mildew and rodents. They followed Pavel's lead, their progress illuminated only by shielded tactical lights that cast just enough glow to prevent them from stumbling. According to the building schematics, the central server room should be on the 3rd sublevel, Donovan whispered as they approached a heavy metal door. "Once inside, we'll have approximately 90 seconds before the security systems register unauthorized access." Pavel worked on the door's electronic lock while one of the team members prepared to neutralize any alarms. After what seemed like an eternity but was actually less than a minute, the lock disengaged with a soft click. "Remember, 15 minutes maximum," Donovan reminded them as Pavel eased the door open. "After that, we extract regardless of mission status." The utility room they entered was cramped and windowless, filled with electrical panels and ventilation equipment. Pavel quickly located the service elevator that would take them to the sublevels. "This elevator requires security credentials," he murmured, examining the card reader. One of Donovan's team produced a specialized device that interfaced with the reader. "Standard encryption. Give me 30 seconds. 28 seconds later, the elevator doors slid open silently. They crowded inside, tension mounting as they descended into the heart of the facility. The doors opened to reveal a sterile white hallway with unmarked doors at regular intervals. Security cameras covered the corridor from multiple angles. "Those are active," whispered the team's electronic warfare specialist, checking a handheld device. "I can loop the feed, but only for 7 minutes before their security protocols will detect the manipulation." "Do it," Donovan ordered. They moved quickly down the corridor, following Pavel's directions based on intelligence gathered from architectural plans and energy usage patterns. At the end of the hall, a reinforced door with multiple security measures blocked their path. "This is it," Pavel confirmed. "Server room. Maximum security." The team worked methodically to defeat the security systems, card reader, biometric scanner, and numeric keypad. Each second felt like an eternity as Marcus and Sophia waited, aware that their window of opportunity was rapidly shrinking. "We're in," announced the specialist finally as the door unlocked with a heavy thunk. The server room beyond was a stark contrast to the corridor, rows of humming equipment bathed in the blue glow of status lights, climate control systems maintaining a perfect temperature for the sophisticated hardware. "This is definitely it," Marcus said, immediately recognizing the configuration. Look at the dedicated communication arrays. This isn't just a node, it's a primary control center. Sophia was already connecting her specialized equipment to an access terminal. I need to find the master control protocols. Without them, we can't implement the countermeasure effectively. For minutes elapsed, Donovan reminded them quietly, posting her team at strategic points to watch for security. Marcus and Sophia worked side by side, their earlier exhaustion forgotten in the rush of adrenaline. They navigated through layers of security, using both brute force techniques and sophisticated workarounds to access the system's core. Found it, Sophia announced after nearly 7 minutes of intense work. This is definitely the primary command node. It's coordinating attacks across all infiltrated systems in the US. Can you deploy the countermeasure? Marcus asked, keeping one eye on Donovan, who was becoming visibly anxious about their extended exposure. Yes, but it's more complex than I anticipated. The authentication protocols are multi-layered. I need to, she broke off as an alarm suddenly blared through the facility. That's not us, the electronic warfare specialist called out. Something triggered a different alarm system. How much longer? Donovan demanded. 3 minutes, minimum, Sophia replied, her fingers flying across the keyboard. I can't rush this or the whole countermeasure will fail. You have to, Donovan decided. Then we're moving, mission complete or not. Pavel was at the door, peering through the narrow window. Security teams mobilizing. 3 approaching from the east corridor, more coming from the stairs. Stall them, Donovan ordered 2 of her team. Non-lethal measures only. As they moved to intercept the approaching security personnel, Marcus focused entirely on supporting Sophia's work, feeding her the encryption sequences and system parameters she needed to complete the countermeasure deployment. Almost there, Sophia muttered. The system is fighting back. Someone's implementing active countermeasures against us. They know we're in their system, Marcus realized. They're tracking our digital footprint in real time. The sounds of confrontation echoed from the corridor, the dull thud of bodies colliding, shouts in Belarusian, the crack of what might have been a stun device. 30 seconds, Donovan warned, drawing her sidearm. Then we're extracting, mission status be damned. Just a few more seconds, Sophia promised, her face illuminated by the screen's glow as complex code scrolled past. There. She hit the final command sequence, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, status indicators across the server racks began changing from green to amber. It's working, Marcus confirmed, checking the diagnostic readouts. The countermeasure is propagating through their entire command structure. It's not just shutting down this node, it's sending termination commands to every compromised system in the US infrastructure. Time to go, Donovan announced as the sounds of conflict grew louder outside. Now. They disconnected their equipment and headed for the door, where Pavel was gesturing urgently toward a side passage. This way. Emergency exit. The extraction was chaotic, a blur of narrow corridors, service ladders, and finally a breathless sprint through the pre-dawn streets of a foreign city. They split into predetermined groups, taking different routes to their extraction point outside the city. Hours later, aboard the return flight to Washington, Marcus and Sophia finally had time to process what they had accomplished. Will it hold? Donovan asked them, her professional composure restored now that her team was safely extracted. The countermeasure isn't just a temporary fix, Sophia explained. It's systematically erasing the malware from infected systems while installing detection protocols to prevent similar infiltrations in the future. And the people behind it? Marcus sighed, leaning back in his seat. That's harder to answer. We've disrupted their operation and compromised their command infrastructure. The digital forensics we collected may help identify the ultimate sponsors, but attribution is always the hardest part, Donovan nodded in understanding. Back in Washington, they found a changed atmosphere. The crisis wasn't over, recovery operations were still underway across the country, but the existential threat had been neutralized. Systems were coming back online, properly secured this time. Critical infrastructure was operational again. In the days that followed, Marcus and Sophia worked with international partners to share the detection protocols developed from their operation. The full extent of the attack became clearer. 27 countries had been targeted, though only the US had experienced actual deployment of the destructive payloads. "The President wants to meet you both," Director Washington informed them a week after their return. "There will be commendations, naturally, though much of what you did will remain classified for obvious reasons." "I don't need recognition," Marcus said. "But I do need something else." He slid a proposal across her desk, detailed plans for a new cybersecurity initiative focused on critical infrastructure protection. Eliza skimmed the document. "This is ambitious. The funding requirements alone would require congressional approval. After what just happened, I think Congress will be motivated to listen. This isn't about preventing the last attack, it's about anticipating the next one. Which is exactly what you were trying to do a year ago, when no one would listen." Eliza smiled faintly. "Sometimes it takes a crisis to create opportunity. I'll support this, but you'll need to be its public champion." Marcus hesitated. "I'm not a politician or a salesperson. I'm a technician." "You're more than that," Sophia interjected from where she'd been quietly listening. "You saw what others missed. You understood the threat when others dismissed it. Sometimes the people who build the shields need to explain why they're necessary." 3 months later, Marcus found himself testifying before a congressional committee, explaining in layman's terms the nature of the threats facing America's digital infrastructure. The attack, now codenamed Digital Darkness by the media, had awakened both policymakers and the public to vulnerabilities previously ignored. The Digital Infrastructure Security Act passed with bipartisan support, establishing new standards and funding mechanisms for protecting critical systems. Marcus, somewhat reluctantly, became the public face of the initiative, while Sophia led the technical implementation team. "You know what still bothers me?" Sophia said one evening as they worked late in their new offices. "We never definitively identified who was behind the attack." Marcus nodded. "The evidence pointed to a coalition of hostile actors, but the ultimate sponsors remained hidden behind layers of proxies and cutouts. Classic problem in cyber attribution. Do you think they'll try again?" "I'm certain of it. But next time, we'll be better prepared." He gestured to the operations center visible through the glass wall of their office, where dozens of analysts monitored critical systems around the clock. "We're not just playing defense anymore. We're anticipating, adapting, evolving. Just like the threats we face," Sophia observed. "Exactly. The digital battlefield isn't like conventional warfare. There's no final victory, no surrender ceremony. Just constant vigilance and adaptation." 1 year after the Digital Darkness event, Marcus stood before a gathering of international cybersecurity experts, presenting the lessons learned and systems implemented in its wake. "The attack we faced wasn't just about disrupting infrastructure or demonstrating technical prowess," he told the assembled audience. "It was a test of our resilience as a society. When the lights went out, when critical systems failed, ordinary people stepped into the breach. Hospital staff carried patients down darkened stairwells. Neighbors checked on the vulnerable. First responders worked without modern communications or traffic control systems." He paused, looking out at the attentive faces. "The technological countermeasures we developed were crucial, but they weren't the whole story. The human element, our capacity for cooperation, innovation, and courage under pressure, was equally important. As we build more sophisticated shields against digital threats, we must remember that technology is only as strong as the people who create and maintain it." The standing ovation that followed wasn't just for him, he knew, but for everyone who had faced the darkness and worked to restore the light. For Sophia, whose brilliant mind had crafted the countermeasure that saved countless lives. For Director Washington, who had listened when others wouldn't. For Major Donovan and her team, who risked their lives to reach the heart of the enemy's operation. For the countless emergency workers, infrastructure engineers, and ordinary citizens who had kept society functioning when its technological foundations were under attack. The digital world had become the backbone of modern civilization, invisible but essential, like oxygen, noticed only in its absence. The digital darkness event had revealed both vulnerabilities and strengths, creating a new awareness of how fragile and how resilient human societies could be. As Marcus left the podium, Sophia met him with a rare smile. "Nice speech. Almost made me forget you once described public speaking as worse than a root canal without anesthesia." "Some fears are worth overcoming for the right cause," he replied. "Speaking of which, the International Cooperation Framework proposal goes before the UN next month. Director Washington wants us both there. Another chance for you to not have a root canal? Something like that." He smiled. "But worth it. What we're building isn't just for one country anymore. The shields we're creating protect people everywhere." In the operations center behind them, analysts continued their quiet work, monitoring, testing, strengthening the invisible barriers that protected critical systems around the world. The battle was ongoing, the vigilance eternal, but they were no longer fighting alone. The darkness had come, but it had not conquered. And in its wake, a new dawn of cooperation and innovation had emerged, a testament to humanity's enduring ability to face its greatest challenges not with fear, but with courage, creativity, and hope. If you've made it to the end of this journey with us, thank you for witnessing this story of digital resilience and human courage. The threats we face in our increasingly connected world are real, but so are the heroes working tirelessly to protect us. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to support more content that explores the challenges and triumphs of our modern age. Until next time, stay safe in both the physical and digital worlds.